On the eve of the wedding, the mother of my fiancé's childhood sweetheart suddenly passed away. My fiancé asked me to cancel the wedding. Georgia is so sad. How can you still want to get married? Can't you have some compassion? I do have compassion. So I changed the groom. She's so pitiful. You two should be together. Take good care of her. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The day before the wedding, I made the final checks on the wedding process. My best friend accompanied me. Carlin was quite dissatisfied. You've been running around for your wedding all by yourself in the past half month, while Morton has been accompanying that good little sister all the time. Morton was my fiancé. The good little sister, in Carlin's words, was the neighbor girl who grew up with Morton. After I made sure there were no omissions, I signed the documents and then replied to her indifferently. It's not like I can't manage it alone. Carlin said seriously. Don't you think he cares too much about that girl? Are they really nothing going on between them? Let me tell you. I've seen a lot of people in the magazine company who claim to be good siblings on the surface but are lovers secretly. I stroked her head. I trust him. Don't be angry. Let's go eat hot pot. If he were here, he would insist on going to a Western restaurant again. She snorted, and her expression softened. She said haughtily, wait a minute. I'm going to the restroom. I smiled. I truly believed in Morton. I meant this from the bottom of my heart. I met him in the university debate club. He spoke gently, yet his words were full of power that could pierce people's hearts. He left a very deep impression on me. After a competition, he took the initiative to ask for my contact information. He smiled bitterly and said, this is the first time I've been left speechless by someone. You're so amazing. I like it when others affirm my abilities. We dated for 2 months and then confirmed our relationship. Everything happened naturally and smoothly. When we just got together, I already knew about Georgia. They were childhood sweethearts and had a very good relationship. Georgia would directly call him brother. The two of them would laugh and play around, just like real siblings. However, Morton knew his boundaries well. All of Georgia's birthday gifts had to be approved by me. Morton never went out with her alone, and their physical contact was very appropriate. He didn't create those cliched plots like the white moonlight childhood sweetheart in novels. Our relationship was very stable. After graduating from university, both he and I found suitable jobs, so getting married was put on the agenda. The wedding date was set 3 months ago. He took me to visit Georgia's mother. He once told me, when I was a child, my parents were busy with work. Georgia's mother always invited me to have meals at her home. Georgia's mother had been seriously ill and had been in the hospital for a long time. When she saw me, she struggled to get up and gave me a red envelope, wishing us a happy wedding. Her condition suddenly worsened in the past half month, so Morton spent more time with them. I understood it very well. While my thoughts were wandering, my phone rang. It was Morton. He told me a shocking piece of news. Jane, Georgia's mother, has passed away. I paused for a long time. That pale and sincere smiling face appeared in front of my eyes, and I sincerely said, I'm sorry for your loss. He was silent for a long time and then hesitated. I want to tell you something. Let's cancel our wedding for now. I couldn't believe what he said. The wedding invitations have been sent out. The hotel has been booked. And my parents have specially come all the way from our hometown. You're saying we should cancel it now? Why? There came a girl's sobbing voice mixed with complaints from the other end of the line. How can she be so selfish? She has no compassion at all. My mother has passed away, and she's still thinking about getting married. She's just jealous of me. Jealous of my good relationship with you. Brother, I don't have a mother anymore. You're my only family member. Morton responded to her, and his tone became solemn. Jane, I know it's sudden, but with Georgia's mother passing away, it's not appropriate to have the wedding tomorrow. What's inappropriate about it? I was genuinely confused. Is there a conflict between these two things? The wedding will end at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we can help her deal with Georgia's mother's affairs together. Morton fell silent again. Then the words he said were like a blow to my head. With Georgia's mother's passing and Georgia being so sad, you're still thinking about the wedding. Can't you have some compassion? After saying that, he hung up the phone. I listened to the beeping sound on the other end and stood there in a daze. My head was buzzing. Everything festive around me gradually became illusory, turning into a series of smiling faces with a hint of mockery. The wedding photo of Morton and me was placed beside me, and both of us were smiling in the photo. So happy. but I couldn't catch my breath. Carlin came over and said worriedly, "Jane, what's wrong with you? Your face is so pale." I looked at her, my eyes red. "Georgia's mother has passed away, and Morton wants to cancel the wedding." She was immediately enraged. "Damn Morton. I'm going to tear that bitch and that scumbag apart right now." Carlin couldn't find him. Neither could I. After that phone call, Morton went out of contact. Before going out of contact, he sent me a message. "Wait until you think it through." It seemed that he was forcing me to cancel the wedding. In the evening, my parents noticed that something was wrong and came to ask me, "Jane, what happened? Why can't we get through to Morton's phone?" There was confusion on their faces, but more of it was worry. My heart ached, and I told them that it was nothing. I went to find Morton's parents. When I first met them, they showed a strong liking for me. Morton's mother forcefully stuffed a big red envelope into my hand and told me not to tell Morton, in case he got jealous. Morton's father also told Morton not to bully me and to give in to me more. Otherwise, his stick wouldn't show mercy. That night, Morton pretended to be jealous and said that his parents treated me better than their own son. When I found them that day, Morton must have informed them. Both of their expressions were a bit awkward. Morton's father scolded Morton for being muddle-headed and acting too impulsively. He said that Morton shouldn't have made such a decision without discussing it with me. Morton's mother joined in the scolding for a few words and then changed the topic to persuade me. "Jane, why don't you listen to Morton and cancel the wedding for now? This child has a stubborn temper. We'll personally take him to your home to apologize later." Morton's father let out a sigh. Morton has always been a person who values affection since he was a child, and he has a good relationship with Georgia. With such a thing happening, it's no wonder I watched them act indifferently. Well, after all, I'm an outsider. How can I be closer to them than their own son? They just took advantage of me. Morton knew that I loved him and wouldn't do anything extreme for a wedding. At most, he could coax me later and give me another wedding, and I would pretend that today's incident never happened. Morton's parents knew that I was deeply in love with their son. So what if I'm angry now? After getting married, I'll still have to call them mom and dad respectfully. I stood up and put the red envelope for changing the address formality that I received before on the coffee table. "Uncle and Aunt, I understand what you mean." Meeting their confused gazes, I forced a smile. "My family paid for the wedding, and I'll make the decision." At that time, Morton proposed to have 2 weddings, one here and one in my hometown. My father was very happy and offered to pay for this wedding. Morton then said that he would pay for the wedding in my hometown. Since the money had already been paid, the wedding definitely had to continue. It's a matter that can be solved by changing the groom. Why should I lose face? Let Morton lose face instead. After walking out of Morton's house, I called someone. "Rain, is it convenient for you to get married?" Under the dim streetlight, the tall and slender boy leaned against the pole. He exhaled smoke rings, and the curling smoke rose up, blurring his delicate profile. Without saying a word, I went over and slapped the back of his head. I blurted out, "At such a young age, who taught you to smoke?" Rain extinguished the cigarette but with a wronged expression and his dark eyes drooped. With a hint of tears in his eyes, "I'm already an adult. Besides, I wanted to look cool in front of you." I regretted hitting him right after I did it. I was used to hitting him before, and I didn't hold back for a moment. I coughed. "It's okay." Rain's expression quickly became cheerful. He stared at me with bright eyes, looking just like a puppy wagging its tail. "Jane, have you seen the light and realized that I'm better than that guy? Don't worry, I will definitely treat you well." I was 1 year older than him. He used to follow me around calling me Sister Jane. Later, I don't know when it started, he refused to call me sister and just called me Jane. I shook my head. In his dimming gaze, I told him the whole story. "So I want you to do me a favor." In his silence, I forced myself to say, "It's okay if you don't want to. I know I'm being impulsive. I do want to." Rain suddenly grabbed my hand and said very seriously, "I'm willing whether it's real or fake. I've dreamed of being your groom, and I brought my own suit. I won't wear his." He showed me the well-tailored black suit he was wearing. He came prepared. I let out a sigh of relief. My eyes felt warm, and the feeling of annoyance in my heart was largely dispelled. "Thank you, Rain." My face was reflected in his eyes. Suddenly, he smiled, as beautiful as blooming spring flowers. He put his arm around my shoulder, leaned his head towards me, and took a selfie with his phone and sent it to me. "There's no time to take wedding photos. You can make do with this." We'll take hundreds of proper ones next time. On the wedding day, the makeup artist was doing my makeup. The wedding would officially start in 2 hours. And I suddenly felt a bit guilty. Why did I have to be so stubborn? Did it make any sense? I don't know when Rain stood behind me. His handsome face was reflected in the makeup mirror. After the makeup was done, there were only the two of us left in the room. He held my shoulders and drawled, "Morton abandoned you for someone else and didn't consider you at all. Unlike me, I only know how to feel sorry for you." "Sister." I couldn't help but laugh and said jokingly, "You're such a green tea guy." Half an hour before the wedding started, Morton took the initiative to call me. His voice was low. "Jane, have you thought it through?" "I have." His tone softened, and his usual gentleness returned. "I knew you wouldn't be so heartless. I'm accompanying Georgia to look at the cemetery. I'll come to find you when we're done." I heard George's urging voice on the other end and said gently, "Okay, I'll wait for you too." After hanging up the phone, I spat in disdain. What a stupid guy. I no longer felt any sadness in my heart. There was only anticipation. I was looking forward to seeing what kind of blessings Morton would give when he saw my wedding. When the wedding started, the photos of Morton and me on the scene were urgently replaced with the photo of Rain and me taken yesterday. None of Morton's relatives came, leaving quite a few empty tables. My parents' livid faces froze when they saw Rain beside me. The whole wedding ended in a strange atmosphere. The one who smiled the happiest was the silly Rain. His beautiful phoenix eyes were almost closed into a slit throughout the whole process. He called my parents, father-in-law, and mother-in-law, affectionately one after another. His calls made them go from being uncomfortable at first to taking it for granted. The other most serious one was Carlin. She found the best angle and recorded the whole wedding from beginning to end. After it was over, she sent me the video. I posted it on my Instagram. It was only visible to Morton, Georgia, and our mutual friends from university. Most of them were at the scene. After hearing the whole story from Carlin, they all stood on my side without exception. A group of people who loved to watch the excitement and didn't think it was a big deal replied below, "You're happy again, sister. Remember to bring your brother-in-law to play billiards when you have time." I replied to the senior sister, "Definitely, this brother-in-law is more handsome than the previous one. I wish you happiness, sister." "Me. It's always him, sister. Will it be him from now on? Treat your brother-in-law well." "Me. I won't let him down." Among the replies full of laughter, two replies with a different tone suddenly appeared. Morton, Jane, marriage is not a joke. Don't kid around. I replied, "I'm sorry you didn't come to witness my happiness." Looking at the one call after another from the same person, I ignored the sourness spreading in my heart and laughed heartily. "Jane," a pitiful voice came from the corner. "What about me? You won't just use me and then throw me away, will you?" Only then did I remember that I wasn't alone in the room. I looked at Rain awkwardly, feeling a bit guilty. I really forgot about him. "Thank you for your help today. You played your part very well." If it weren't for him smiling so stupidly, Morton wouldn't have been so angry as to make so many phone calls. Rain mumbled, "This isn't acting. It's a rehearsal." "Huh?" I didn't hear clearly and looked at him in confusion. He lowered his reddish face and didn't say anything. I was wearing a wedding dress, and he was wearing a suit, but we didn't look like a couple at all. Neither of us said a word, and the room was as quiet as a chicken. I broke the silence. "Let me treat you to a meal." He looked up, his eyes shining brightly, and nodded. "I want to eat that." In the middle of the night, we sat on low stools with our legs spread apart, and in front of us was a bowl of steaming hot spicy hot pot. I was speechless and amused. "I thought you were going to make me spend a lot of money." Rain smiled contentedly. "When I was in the United States, I thought about eating this with you every day." Through the thick mist, his eyes stared at me without blinking. My heart stirred. I recalled the past in the small town. We lived on the same floor of the same unit in the same community. Every time his parents quarreled, he would sit on the stairs at the door and cry. I always couldn't bear to see it and would take him to secretly eat the spicy hot pot that his mother didn't allow him to eat at the street corner. It was fragrant and spicy. A small bowl. We would share it, and our mouths and noses would turn red from eating. Rain would ask me with a wronged expression, "Why do my parents always quarrel?" I didn't understand adult matters. He sniffled and said sadly, "They always say that my father is a good person and that it's my mother who likes to quarrel. But I think my father is the one at fault. When my mother talks to him and asks him to do something, he ignores her. And that's why my mother yells and cries. Isn't the mouth used for talking? It's a truth that even a child knows. Why doesn't my father understand? I patted his back to soothe him. I once heard my parents secretly say that Rain's father was a taciturn person who wouldn't say a word even if you hit him with 3 sticks. He could be a good friend, but as a family member, he would really drive people crazy. Rain suddenly grabbed my hand, and his small face was full of seriousness. When we get married in the future, I won't be like my father. Jane. Huh? Seeing him crying so pitifully, I didn't say the words, "We won't get married." I just vaguely replied with, At that time, I was 9 years old, and he was 8 years old. Time passed by leisurely, and 8 years passed in a flash. A taciturn uncle, an increasingly hysterical aunt, and a bewildered Rain. They formed a strange family. I don't know who finally came to their senses. Right after the spring festival, Rain's parents got a divorce. Rain's mother was going to go abroad. Our last meeting at that time was the night before he went abroad. The 16-year-old Rain asked me to come out. He said that he liked me. I refused him. I don't like boys younger than me. I liked men like my father. Mature and considerate. Rain's eyes turned red. He asked if he could hug me. I nodded. He hugged me and said, "Anytime, anywhere. Super Rain will appear at any moment." This was an animation that we often watched together when we were children. I don't know when it started, but we suddenly stopped watching it. Just like the young man who said his mother needed him more when we said goodbye in a hurry that day. We met again 6 years later, through the rising mist. I looked at his face, which had become much more handsome compared to 6 years ago. The baby fat on Rain's face, which was a mark of his childhood innocence, had completely disappeared. His eyebrows and eyes were pitch black, and his jaw was well defined. He had the appearance of a fully grown man. We should have felt strange about each other. The sudden reunion after 6 years and the unreasonable request. However, I didn't feel strange about him at all. Instead, I only felt a sense of intimacy. That was the friendship that was forged during those afternoons when we used doing homework as an excuse but secretly turned on the TV to watch animations. I asked, "Rain, why did you come back to China?" Rain was silent for a few seconds. His gaze landed on my face, and there seemed to be ripples in his eyes. He said leisurely, "I missed home." So he missed his uncle. He was still a child after all. I smiled understandingly. "Have you gone to see your uncle?" My uncle had gotten married again. I didn't say the latter half of the sentence. I thought he should already know about it. Rain was stunned for a moment. "No. If you need me to, I can accompany you to see him." Okay. The next day, I specifically took a leave of absence to go to Morton's bridal chamber to pack my luggage. The bridal chamber was prepared by his parents when he was in university. The location was good, and it was very close to our company, so I moved in after graduation. We had lived together for half a year, and I had left quite a few things in there. It was time to clean them out. Morton should not be at home at this time. When I opened the door with the key, I saw a mess on the floor. There were overturned wine bottles and scattered clothes. A bad premonition rose in my heart. I quietly walked to the half-closed door and pushed it open. The light from the living room shone in, allowing me to see the scene inside clearly. On the green bed sheet, there lay a man and a woman. They were pressed closely together, dressed in revealing clothes, and their postures were intimate. Strangely, at that moment, what I thought was that the bedsheet was dirty. The bedsheet had been newly changed not long ago, and I could still seem to smell the fragrance of the lavender laundry detergent that I had poured in myself. The smell that I had liked so much before now seemed incredibly cloying. It made me want to vomit. The sound of my dry retching woke up the people in their dreams. Meeting his panicked eyes, the last glimmer of hope in my heart vanished. I was so glad. Fortunately, we hadn't gotten the marriage certificate yet. I turned around and left. There were rustling sounds behind me. Morton chased after me and grabbed my hand. "Jane, it's not what you saw." I shook off his hand and looked at him coldly. "Put some clothes on." He looked embarrassed and quickly put on his shirt and pants. Georgia wasn't in a hurry. She hid under the quilt and asked, "Brother, what should I wear? You dirted all my clothes yesterday." She glanced at me lightly, with a hint of provocation in her eyes. I couldn't see the sadness of her mother's passing, but her desire to be a mistress was crystal clear. Why didn't I notice her having such thoughts before? It was because we met less often. Morton looked at me and took out one of my dresses from the closet. I said coldly, "Don't touch my clothes. They're dirty." His face turned pale, and he had to take his own clothes. Georgia came out after getting dressed. I walked past them and went in to pack my clothes. It was so dirty. I had to disinfect them when I got back. Morton rushed over in a flurry and held down my hand. What are you doing? I pushed him away in disgust. Don't touch me. What do you think I'm doing? Of course. I'm getting rid of a bag of dirty trash. Morton frowned and looked at me with an expression of, "You're being unreasonable." He let out a sigh. You misunderstood. Georgia was very sad last night, and I accompanied her to drink. We both drank too much and vomited on our clothes. So we took off our outer clothes. We fell asleep before we could change our clothes. I widened my eyes in amazement. What a great excuse. What a pure brother-sister relationship. I couldn't believe that these were the words that Morton would say. This man, who seemed mature and considerate in my eyes, was completely rotten at that moment. Don't be like this. Between me and Georgia. He paused, and his expression was a bit strange. There can't be anything between us. I didn't know what he meant by that. Georgia interrupted our conversation and snorted. Brother, what are you talking to her for? People with a dirty mind see everything as dirty. And don't you remember that she had a wedding with another man behind your back yesterday? Morton remembered. His face darkened, and he seemed to suddenly become the victim, feeling confident enough to ask me for an explanation. Jane, you're being too willful. Is a wedding a joke? Finding someone to act as the groom. What will others think of me? Delete that moment's post quickly. I closed the suitcase, straightened up, and looked him in the eye. The groom ran away from the wedding. It's very normal for me to change the groom, isn't it? Morton said in a disappointed tone. George's mother passed away. But you only cared about the wedding. Jane, I never thought you could be so selfish and heartless. It seemed that we had become the affirmative and negative sides in a debate. We pricked up our ears and confronted each other, determined to find the other's weakness, to defeat the opponent with one move. Do you think I'm angry because you want to cancel the wedding? It's pointless to talk more with someone who isn't worthy. But I, Jane, have never been someone who swallows my anger and grievances and sacrifices myself to please others. I'm angry about the way you informed me. I'm angry about your avoidance. I made the final statement. You're using cold violence. During the month when I was preparing for the wedding, Morton spent most of his time with Georgia and her mother. You said I'm selfish and heartless. But did I stop you from taking care of them? During this month, I was indeed angry a few times. The first time was when we had an appointment to try on wedding dresses. As a result, I waited for him at the bridal shop for 5 hours by myself. He didn't show up until it was almost dark. When I asked, I found out that Georgia was not satisfied with the current caregiver and thought that the caregiver was being lazy by playing with her phone while her mother was sleeping. She made a fuss about changing to a more responsible caregiver. Morton came over after dealing with it, although I was still a bit dissatisfied in my heart and thought that Georgia was too willful. But I could also understand. After all, the aunt was her only family member. I waited at the bridal shop for so long. Several groups of people came and went. They gossiped that I must have forced the groom to run away by pressuring him into marriage and was left alone at the bridal shop. I was wronged, sad, and angry. But after you came and explained it to me, did I keep dwelling on it? The second time I was dissatisfied was on the day we were taking wedding photos. He brought Georgia with him. He said that he was worried that if he left her alone, she would think too much. Georgia sat in the corner and covered her face from time to time, seemingly sobbing. As a result, Morton was absent-minded throughout the process. We took nearly 100 photos, but only a few of them were usable. Was I angry at that time? Of course, I was. I got up early to do my makeup, but I ended up with such a result. But did I stop you from comforting her and continue taking care of them? As for the wedding, I was the only one who took care of everything throughout the process. I was in event planning and had planned several weddings. However, for my own wedding, I also wanted to discuss it with my significant other. Even so, I didn't disturb you. I know that you regard George's mother as a family member, and it must be very tiring for you to take care of them. So, haven't I been understanding enough towards you? What about you? Why can't you understand my sadness and reluctance at seeing all my efforts in the past month go to waste? It was like a month without a fiancé. Every day was like a straw piled on my shoulders. However, the countless unconnected phone calls and the attitude of refusing to communicate were the last straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't understand. I truly didn't understand from the bottom of my heart. Is it really that difficult to give a good explanation, offer patient comfort, and give a sincere apology, compared to using cold violence? rejecting my phone calls and informing your parents, after knowing that I would come to your door. Did you think you were really smart? I vented all my grievances. I didn't feel ashamed, nor did I think I was being aggressive. I didn't want to be a victim either. It's just that why should I swallow my grievances, and then accept the label of selfish and heartless? Isn't the mouth used for speaking? When Morton was pursuing me, I thought we were a good match. I was impulsive and always came up with ideas on the spur of the moment. He was gentle and slow-tempered, and he did things in an orderly manner. We had been in a relationship for 4 years without quarreling, and we were the loving couple in everyone's eyes. I originally thought that we complemented each other and were a perfect match, so I entered marriage with great anticipation. Fortunately, just one quarrel made me see his true colors. I almost fell into this toxic intimate relationship. One side was silent, and the other side would break down in this silence. In the end, the person who didn't know the truth would still blame me, saying how pitiful he was and that I was a crazy woman. How lucky I was, because I had seen too many couples who fell out during the wedding preparation period. I resolutely decided to have the wedding first and then get the marriage certificate. I avoided a disaster. Morton was stunned by my words one after another. After a moment, he looked remorseful. I didn't know you were so wronged. Georgia kept crying at that time and told me that as long as I let you calm down by yourself, you would understand me. There were no more ripples in my heart, because he was no longer an important person, just a problem that needed to be solved. For a problem, all I needed to do was answer it. Me, Morton. This is a problem between the two of us. Georgia didn't sew your mouth shut, didn't break your legs, and didn't smash your phone either. George's problem was Morton's problem. He should be the one to answer it. But it shouldn't be us. Just like a breakup. It's a problem between the two of us. You've disappointed me. I can't accept a boyfriend who uses cold violence to solve problems. And I definitely can't accept this person becoming my husband. So, we're completely over. I turned around and left. There was nothing for me to miss here. No matter how familiar the person was or how familiar the house was. If it wasn't mine, I didn't want it. Morton chased after me and grabbed my hand, begging, I don't want to break up. It's just a wedding. Right. We can have it in your hometown. I'll take care of everything. You don't need to be busy with it. Knock. Knock. Someone knocked on the door. Rain leaned against the door. Jane, I've been waiting so long that the flowers have withered. Why haven't you come down yet? Morton's face turned red instantly, and he tightened his grip on my hand. So that's why you broke up with me for a wedding. You already found a backup. My wrist turned red immediately. I tried to pull it out but couldn't. Rain held our hands and forcefully pulled them apart. He slowly rubbed the red mark with the pad of his thumb, and then curled his lips. Brother, don't be angry. The wrinkles at the corners of your eyes are so obvious. Unlike me, in order to always look the most beautiful in front of sister, I do skincare every day, but I'm naturally good looking. A little bit of maintenance is enough to make me look great. It's not like you, brother. His eyes were like arrows, shooting towards Morton with malice. A man dresses up for the one he loves. No wonder sister doesn't like you anymore. You're getting old too fast. Morton was only 1 year older than Rain. However, at first glance, the latter was full of vitality. Like a young male college student who had just entered the university campus, Morton carried the reality of being immersed in society. Morton's face turned as black as ink. I felt satisfied seeing this, but I didn't want to take the blame. People with a dirty mind see everything as dirty. Here you go. Rain and I have known each other since we were children. He went abroad for many years, and we haven't seen each other since. We met again thanks to you. The wedding was a show. I just did it to vent my anger. Now that I had vented my anger, I couldn't let Rain continue to bear the reputation of stealing someone's love. Rain wasn't happy because of my explanation. He hummed softly, almost inaudibly. Morton's expression improved. I'm glad you're willing to explain to me. I know that no one can come between our relationship. I looked at him like he was a fool. Forget it. I have megalophobia. I'm afraid of big idiots. Let's go. I took Rain and left. Morton was about to chase after us, but Georgia stopped him. Brother, do you want me to go out wearing your clothes? His footsteps stopped at the door. I didn't care and waited for the elevator that opened for me. When we reached the first floor, the elevator door opened again. Familiar people appeared outside. Morton's mother looked at me and then at Rain, who was helping me drag the suitcase. Her kind expression completely disappeared. She said in a sarcastic tone, Jane, A woman should cherish herself and not be too impulsive in doing things. Be careful that your reputation is ruined. Otherwise, you might be kicked out of your mother-in-law's house in the future and then beg my son to take you back. Rain covered his nose beside me, looking extremely uncomfortable. Jane, can you smell someone farting? It stinks so much. I laughed out loud and indirectly criticized someone. Rain, have you ever heard a saying? If a man doesn't cherish himself, he's like a rotten cabbage. Someone's son was lying intimately with the so-called sister in his mouth on the same bed. Who knows which honest woman will end up with him in the future? Fortunately, I'm lucky and didn't marry him, thanks to his whole family. Rain echoed. As the saying goes, a blessed person doesn't enter a family without blessings. Morton's mother's face turned purple from our words, afraid that she would get a heart attack and try to blame us. We left in a hurry. Only after we got in the car did we look at each other and burst out laughing. I praised him. You're getting better and better at speaking. He praised me. You're performing as steadily as ever. In the past, in the community, there were always children who laughed at Rain because his parents quarreled every day. Rain was not good at arguing back, but he was strong physically and could beat up the children who provoked him so that they couldn't fight back. Those children would file a complaint first to shift the blame. At this time, I would step forward and vividly describe how they had taunted and cursed at Rain. My vivid description made the parents who came to cause trouble feel so embarrassed that they grabbed their own children and left. My life got back on track. I told my parents the truth. Instead of scolding me, they were glad that I hadn't jumped into the fire pit and asked me to find time to bring Rain home for a meal. Rain used to always come to my home for dinner, and my parents treated him like half a son. Of course, I agreed. Rain became my neighbor again and rented a house next door to mine. He put it nicely as taking care of each other. The only thing that annoyed me was Morton's persistent harassment. He almost came to pick me up after work every day. Previously, he would do this occasionally, and every time I saw him downstairs of the company, I would be very delighted. Now, the only thought I have when I see him is, that annoying guy is here again. I just pretended not to see him and went on my way. After he persisted for a month and realized that this method wasn't working, he started asking our university classmates to plead his case. They knew about the wedding, and none of them helped him. Instead, they just used this matter to gossip with me about his mentality. Finally, they came to the conclusion, he's completely crazy. One night, he called me while drunk, saying that he was in a bar and missed me so much. When I heard him crying on the other end, saying that he was sorry to me and that he shouldn't have avoided me, I felt nothing. Georgia shouted angrily on the other end, he's like this because of you, and you're completely indifferent. How can you be so heartless? I raised my eyebrows. You've read too many cheesy novels. You're crazy. I hung up and blocked him again. It was a one-stop service. The day after the phone incident, the person who came to pick me up after work was Georgia. She walked towards me aggressively, her eyes wide open, as if two balls of fire were about to burst out. How dare you treat my brother like this? Do you think you're a fairy? It's your good fortune that my brother likes you. I took a few steps back, scared by her appearance, afraid that she would go crazy. She got even angrier and roared, if I didn't have the same father as my brother, do you think you would have a chance? We slept together in high school. I was really shocked by this news and even felt a bit nauseous. Georgia thought she had hit a nerve with me and said triumphantly, he only found you because we couldn't be together. You're just a substitute for me. I got into a taxi, took out my phone, and sent the recording I just made to Morton's mother. Fortunately, I was worried that she would try to frame me, so I turned on the recording in advance. Auntie, there's trouble in your backyard. I then sent her the price list of our company's wedding planning services and added insult to injury. If you need it, feel free to contact me. I won't hold grudges, and I'll give you a discount. Not long after, I heard that Morton's mother secretly had a paternity test done between Georgia and Morton's father. They were biological father and daughter. Morton's family was in chaos. Many people witnessed Georgia and Morton's father being scratched on the face and then driven out. Later, Morton's mother filed for divorce. With all these things happening one after another, Morton didn't have the energy to harass me anymore, and I finally had some peace. On the weekend, my mother asked me to go home for dinner, saying that Rain's mother had returned to China. I went back with Rain and met his half-sister, who was of mixed race, with golden hair and blue eyes. She was like a doll and extremely cute. Rain's mother doted on this daughter very much. Her gaze was always on her, and a smile unconsciously appeared on her lips. She kept calling her, babe. In contrast, she seemed quite unfamiliar with Rain. She only called his name when we entered the door. After dinner, Rain's mother took her daughter to the balcony to look at the flowers my mother had planted and called Rain over. I was sitting on the sofa near the balcony and accidentally overheard their conversation. Rain's mother, why did you suddenly come back? If Jane's mother hadn't told me, I wouldn't even have known. A mother had to hear about her son's whereabouts from someone else. Their mother-son relationship was more distant than I had imagined. Rain lowered his head. Because my home is here. Rain's mother sneered. You ungrateful wretch. I raised you for so long. But in your heart, you only care about your father. Rain looked at her. Neither your home nor his is my home. I'm just a guest in both of your places. The place where Jane is, that's my home. When you didn't want me, it was her who took me home. Rain's mother's hands trembled, and her voice was a bit choked up. Are you blaming me? I'm not blaming you. I hope you'll be happy. Rain's mother fell silent. His sister pointed at the sky, and a naive and romantic smile appeared on her face. Brother, look at the sun. Rain stroked her smiling face. Instead of looking in the direction she was pointing at, he turned to look at me. Yeah, the sun. Rain's mother only stayed for 2 days. Later, she was going to take her daughter to visit Disneyland in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Rain didn't go with them. He said he had to work. On the way back, I brought up the 6 years he spent abroad. I don't think I've ever asked, how was your life abroad? He told me. In the 5th month after he went to the United States, his mother married a classmate from her university, and they soon had a child. His relationship with his stepfather was already distant, and after his sister was born, his mother focused all her attention on his sister. He was like a guest in the family, an unnecessary branch. After starting university, he moved to the school dormitory by himself. He knew that his stepfather didn't want to see the child of his love rival, so he rarely went home. After graduating from university, he was also confused and didn't know where to go. Until that day, when I found out that you were going to get married, I came back. I wanted to see you in a wedding dress. Even if it wasn't for me, I would still be the happiest person in the world. Unexpectedly, the best decision I've ever made in my life was buying the plane ticket back to China that day. He was so serious that I had to take seriously the feelings that I used to think were a bit childish. I continued to work in Suichang. I couldn't hate a whole city because of one person. Morton didn't have that much influence. Rain refused to join his father's company and chose to stay in Suichang and start his own business. He said confidently, I will strive to become a better person who is worthy of you. Half a year later, we officially started dating. When I agreed, he let out a shout and made a jumping motion. Then he seemed to think of something and regained his composure, smiling and saying, It's great. Fortunately, I'm a mature man, or I would definitely have fainted from happiness. I burst out laughing and pinched his nose. Stop pretending. After a competition, he took the initiative to ask for my contact information. During the time we were dating, Rain and I quarreled a few times. He was unhappy that I worked too much overtime, and I thought he was too clingy, wanting me to report what I ate for 3 meals a day. But instead of using cold violence, we chose to sit down and talk it out. Finally, we reached a solution through negotiation. No matter how busy we were, we had to set aside 3 days a week to have dinner together and go on 2 dates. During these times, we weren't allowed to reply to any work messages. As for Rain, he could send messages about what he ate for 3 meals a day. He wouldn't force me to reply, and he could wait for me to reply at my leisure. In the following year, I got a promotion and a raise, and I had several planning projects that were regarded as classics in the industry. Rain's small company hired more and more people. Life was extremely wonderful. We were preparing to get married, and the wedding would be held in my hometown. This time, I was still in charge of planning it. Rain accompanied me throughout the process, serving tea and water and responding to everything. On the day of the wedding, Morton showed up uninvited. Afterward, he said, You look beautiful today. I saw him off and said, Stop acting. Rain pouted and came over, trying to hide his jealousy by saying, Mature men don't get jealous. I pecked him on the lips. You're such a little jealous guy. You're already very mature. The end.